Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're connecting with us from. My name is Dimitris Kalogeropoulos, and I am the Chief Executive at the Global Health and Digital Innovation Foundation UK. I am going to talk to you today about patient-centric AI. If you just give me 1 second to share my screen. Great, thank you. So the structure of my talk will be in 4 parts. The first part is foresight, a glimpse into the future. The second part is back to the current state. Third part, AI case studies from 4 angles. And finally, how to get to the future. So let's start with foresight. Through knowledge elicitation, this is hopefully a glimpse into the not too far future, and we are taking a journey into a space of big data, systems medicine research, telehealth, network economy, and P4 medicine. So artificial intelligence is what brings all these together, at least from my perspective today on this talk. So through knowledge elicitation during clinical practice, AI companions enable clinical uses of P4 medicine. That's personalized, precision preventive, participatory medicine. Now, to achieve this, AI facilitates multi-stakeholder participation in healthcare. And in turn, cooperating participants offer inclusive evidence for reliable knowledge models, making AI accepted into practice to produce further patient-centric models of care and AI models. If we flip this perspective and look at it from the value for patients, AI fortifies patient-centric care, enabling new broadband access pathways. This happens in 3 different ways. First of all, to participate in patient-centric care, artificial intelligence services are combined with telehealth services, enabling continuous streams of data. This means wider and deeper understanding of population needs and better AI that addresses the differential circumstances of patients. Finally, better understanding of needs means inclusion and expanded digital or not access to care. And then back to step 1. And this goes on until AI learns everything or true patient-centric care is achieved. So the digital patient-centric care model architecture comprises 3 parts. One is artificial intelligence, so this is the facilitator. The other one is workflow automation. This is the validator. And the third one is telehealth. These are the enablers. So artificial intelligence is responsible for knowledge discovery. After all, artificial intelligence is a knowledge base, which is activated depending on the problem being solved. For example, radiomics within the radiologist workflow. So now the workflow automation could be comprising a number of clinical workflows. It could be auto-classification of patient-reported outcomes, smart referrals, or the example for knowledge I just brought up, radiomics discovery within the radiologist workflow as a background automation. And telehealth, finally, could be cancer survivorship apps or hospital at home applications, either before hospitalization or post-discharge applications, monitoring patients at home. So the elements of patient-centric care are to improve that the PCC improves access to care via different enablers, and I will go into these enablers in a minute. It requires more knowledge than our traditional disease treatment approach, and this is because of multimorbidities and the complexities introduced in terms of associations with observations, personalized response to treatments, disease trajectories, and so on and so on. Patient-centric care enables value-based participatory care and relies on empowering patients along new digital access pathways. And finally, patient-centric care leads to better and more inclusive evidence to develop more and better patient-centric models. The cycle goes on. So the three enablers that I just mentioned are, first of all, population covers. Now, to have patient-centric care with the support of artificial intelligence, we need to improve access. That means we need to reach all population groups covered by health systems, provide all needed services, and also facilitate access to whatever services we're providing to these populations. Once we do all these, then we have what we refer to as universal health coverage systems or policies. And access facilitators in our case would be knowledge, telehealth, and a new broadband participatory access pathway. And the broadband, when I refer to broadband access, a term that I coined for this presentation, I'm actually talking about the knowledge that flows within existing access pathways from end to end as in an opportunity to provide healthcare services to patients depending on various needs. So our applications would start with identifying healthcare needs, seeking services, searching for care, reaching healthcare resources, and along this long winded path to improving access and patient outcomes, there are certain points that we need evidence in order to improve, to identify limitations, bottlenecks. And the journey continues with being offered services appropriate to needs, initiating care, delay between demand, search, and care, trusting and expectations toward the provider, engaging continuity contingent on other services, and so forth. Third enabler of patient centricity is knowledge foundations. So here to illustrate what is meant and where we are now and where we're trying to get to, we have three types of knowledge. The one is correspondence knowledge, correspondence view of systems medicine, or an approach to systems medicine, the coherence view, raw coherence view, and precision view, or patient-centric knowledge systems. And these are built, I'm just reminding, by the purpose to build them with artificial intelligence automatically. So correspondence view is evidence-based medicine. And to give an example of this, I'm just quoting, studies of antibiotics for bronchitis failed to show a benefit for most patients. This we discovered through clinical trials, peer-reviewed journals, gold standards, guidelines. And then if we go into what we call coherence view, so if we try to analyze with causality and the logic of things, the same statement, it could read as follows: since bronchitis involves infection of the airways in the lungs, antibiotics should help. Well, clearly that's not always the case, but this is what a general AI model or an LLM would do. It would just seek a blind causality between what our diagnosis is and what usually happens when treating it, or the logic of treating it with antibiotics. Now, finally, what we're trying to get is go full circle from the old evidence-based medicine, which is more empirical, more monolithic, let's say, with less bandwidth, and go to full bandwidth knowledge foundations, or the precision view, where we can state the same problem as follows: studies of antibiotics for bronchitis fail to show a benefit for most patients, apart from this cohort group profile provided treatment plan X is followed. And this is our target, the real-world evidence environment, where our AI carries out the discovery, and through that, we have improved access and inclusion. So summarizing what patient-centric AI would be defined as, it accelerates the discovery of patient-specific knowledge about diseases and their interactions within existing data streams. It enables patient-centric pathways with A, knowledge, B, automation, C, patient engagement. Knowledge would be, for example, personalized lines of therapy for cancer. Automation would be to identify silent comorbidities within electronic health records in order to provide patient-centric care. Engagement would be to capture patient-reported outcome measures through XYZ application. Three, the patient-centric AI would be to create new improved data streams. Four, accelerate the production of evidence acting reciprocally toward other AI and patient-centric care models. And then finally, provide knowledge and process platforms for collaboration and participation. So we can look at this space of applications of AI interactions with patient-centric care and telehealth and knowledge discovery processes through two distinct interfaces. One is the digital, the other the provider interface. In the middle, we have standards evolving to make these capacities a reality. So the digital interface separates. Let's start from where? Start from personalization. It doesn't matter, it goes full circle. Personalization leads to engagement and participation. Now that's a digital interface because applications have been developed for that. It leads to improved patient experiences. And this is now on the side of the patient or population value, population health value or studies. And at this point, we have integration of services and continuity of care through the patient experience. The patient is more engaged, more participating in the process of care. And that leads to value for the patient. Again, we have knowledge and transparency crossing over from that provider interface through digital interface, which is in this case artificial intelligence, to precision knowledge development, and through that collaboration and coordination, which is patient-centric care, back to personalization and so on. So in order to enable this cycle that we encounter in almost any application of digital health, we need standards for a number of things. First of all, we need standards of care models. Hospital at home is an evolving health model, and it proves to have significant benefits. The second type of standard we need is disease models. So this is developing our precision systems medicine. The third is diagnostic gold standards. So here I'm referring to software as medical devices, which are being regulated and introducing gradually significant improvements over traditional and well-accepted gold standards. The fourth is evidence practices, transitioning from clinical trials to real-world evidence, and in the regulatory pathways, AI deployments and data ecosystems. So now back to the current state. So this is the second part of the approach. Three major observations we all share. One, that vulnerable populations are underrepresented in approaches to evidence, both with a medical and a technological focus. Number two, that outreach is not equitable and inclusive, hence neither understanding of differential needs, our understanding, the systems, the policies understanding of differential needs and care providers. Number three, inefficient models of care and access preempt digital exacerbation of bias and inequity. So to address these shortcomings, an agenda for patient-centered AI, it's the same, would include the following points. Number one, accelerate social innovation by disposing developers to a better understanding of the needs and challenges of underserved populations. Number two would be to enable a broad collaboration to modernize and reinforce evidence-based practices in related fields. Enable early design participation for a broad audience to address the digitally vulnerable, for example. Enable regulatory pathways needed to advance evidence-based digital solutions. The FDA predetermined change control plans recommendation would be one such a new regulatory pathway. Introduce evidence standards to integrate digital health technologies into clinician workflows and to prioritize the needs of patients in the workforce. And finally, develop evidence-based reimbursement policies. So third part, let's have a look at some case studies along four angles. So the first angle would be to reach out to populations, improving reaching out to populations. I have taken an example here in my presentation about acute febrile illness and targeting access limitations in sub-Saharan Africa, which I found very impressive. The program rolled out by FIND. There's a link if you wish to find further details. I found rather impressive because of the simplicity of the approach and the significant results, short-term and longer-term results that the program will bring. It's still in the process of being rolled out. So AFI is the main reason for consultation at first level health facilities, but causative agents are unknown. It could be viral, bacterial, malaria, or other. The challenge here then is because we have little knowledge about this, and you know, the dealing with this condition is based on correspondence and experience. The problem is A, managing the individual patient, B, the longer-term consequences of inappropriate case management on health, economy, and of course, antimicrobial resistance. What the program does is to expand access with appropriate digital diagnostic technology. So algorithms are involved. It could be artificial intelligence. In this case, the algorithms are quite straightforward, or software as a medical device. And the longer term benefits would be downstream to generate knowledge about AFI, although this is not an objective of this particular program. The second angle would be to empower the clinician. And this is where learning AI really shines bright. Are very famous LLMs because of what is going on that have quite a history, but became breakthrough technologies because of the ability to conduct deep learning and process more with transformers and with attention layers to process more information. The thing with learning AI is that it requires a number of things so that it can deliver on the promise. So one of the most classic applications is radiology report reading. Literally, the artificial intelligence reads the radiology reports and it can generate from voice to narratives and structured reports. There are applications of EHR readers where artificial intelligence deep learning algorithms read electronic health records and understand the semantic content of the records and do a number of things with that, generate a number of outputs. There are applications of cross or self-supervised AI that lets multimodal image interpretation while reading clinical features. So these are two artificial intelligence systems actually working together, one supervising the other, reading protein structures for drug discovery or learning systems biology for systems medicine, predicting treatment outcomes, an older, more standard application of artificial intelligence from population histories with phenotypic traits and personalizing patient engagement. Now, with radiology reporting, which illustrates the point I'm making today better than other applications, we have the issue of supporting and empowering the healthcare provider. With rising numbers of examinations, providers are overwhelmed with steadily increasing workloads. And AI models are doing a fairly good job for automatic generation of radiology reports from images, thus reducing the workload. So this is one application. Another application is that cross supervision uses the output just above. The generated reports uses that output to supervise artificial intelligence that learns radiograph representations. And finally, auto annotation, which is a very important but very mundane and very expensive and time-consuming task for clinicians. And artificial intelligence does this by training itself on image report pairs to predict annotations. So which report actually matches which image and therefore give the label to the report. Third angle is engaging the patient. And here we have also a very important development over the past few years with auto-classification of data in cancer patient interviews, where patient-reported outcome measures high-value data for engaging patients are used in clinical research, policies, and care delivery. Now, FDA and European and EMA encourage use of patient-reported outcomes, which is quite important to know to inform medical product development and regulatory decisions to improve patient care and to improve patient care. So here, the need is to identify and promote best practices in collecting patient-reported outcomes in clinical trials and implementing them in healthcare. And again, this is an area where artificial intelligence can become patient-centric, and we can use it to improve clinical trials, for example, matching tumor responses with survival, and predict, so we can better manage clinical trials, which is a complex, again, and very time-consuming process. Build better awareness of patients' health, engage patients in clinical research, provide important insights into the patient journey in cancer, and improve screening and follow-up. AI is used in this context to process interviews and records, which is a major barrier to widespread use, because this is, again, a very mundane and complex task. Increasing the bandwidth of access to care, again, through that. It is used to process event information in EMRs to establish clinical timelines and aid in patient care and predict response to cancer treatment based on histories of lines of therapy, which are reverse processed with features of the patient to predict disease trajectories and outcomes. And finally, the fourth angle is knowledge containers. Where does this knowledge go? How can we manage? How can we share this knowledge and finally use it within learning AI systems that are validated, evaluated, and integrated into clinical care? So here we have three major developments over the past few years. One is mining electronic health records for LOINC-expressed biomarkers. This is one study that I found in this relevant domain. The other one is rolling up data into OMOP common data model profiles to create a single phenotype. So this was done in Brazil to collect data from different databases and different sources, to aggregate data and to produce knowledge about COVID-19, which produced very good results. And then finally, another system which is being developed in the United Kingdom. This is a report. This was reported, published a week ago or 2 weeks ago. The use of knowledge graphs to integrate phenotypic ontologies. So these are all containers that are used to federate knowledge-based development. So fourth part and final part is, how do we get there? And this is the real challenge here. First of all, we need to reach out to underserved populations with telehealth. The second is to connect healthcare providers across the care continuum. And finally, recycle data in and across patient-centric pathways to generate evidence from data. And then finally, co-scale innovations to build an inclusive evidence base. Now, a recent study about supporting the real-world evidence lifecycle, just to have a look at what the current state is with regard to the mapping of data to evidence and building that knowledge base. It doesn't matter whether it's with artificial intelligence or if it's manually conducted, is that aggregation at scale is needed. We're still lacking that. So we are lacking scale and scope, and we need to expand the scale by embedding it into clinical practice and also address multimorbidity. The second problem we are dealing with in real-world evidence life cycles is quality assurance is lacking, something which we're not concerned with in experimental practices, such as randomized controlled trials, clinical trials, which prevail, but still are very complex, slow, expensive, and lacking inclusion, as we all know. So the study recommends what we should do is empower the patient, incentivize evidence capture, deploy artificial intelligence to mobilize inactive information, which is a use of artificial intelligence mining electronic health records, which is becoming very popular and very promising in terms of knowledge development and patient-centric use of artificial intelligence, protect and return value to patients through transparency, engagement, and data privacy, and then finally prioritize diversity to reduce bias and maintain equity. The policy recommendations made in this study in relation to the previous observations are to improve downstream life cycle practices, and this is where recycling comes in. As I call it, characterize how value for patients encourages a positive feedback for evidence. Fill the institutional gap to drive data strategy agendas representative of populations. Address erosion of public trust, quite a task. Support cooperation of all stakeholders, quite a task too. So how do we do that? Support cooperation. We build data economies with increasing returns to scale and scope. Now, this is the model of economy which we are actually going through right now after the economies of scale, but little is attention. It attracts little attention it was introduced in the term of the millennium, and it has been attracting little attention, perhaps, because we are finding it difficult to implement it in the data economy. So how this would work is if we could implement standards for data recycling, and we have two axes. One is to cooperate for scale, the other to cooperate for scope. Where we are now is bottom left. We're in innovation silos. We don't have scale, we don't have scope. So if through data recycling we could improve scope, we would have new impacts. If we could improve scale, we would have new populations. And if we could improve both, we would have new populations and new impacts. And this is where we're trying to get to. So how do we do that? Well, at the IEEE Standards Association, we are developing a standard for this to develop a secure, compliant, to deliver secure, compliant, coordinated, and inclusive healthcare data recycling. And this is a function as an integral element of the AI Act regulatory structure to enable connected innovation for inclusive access and evidence. So when artificial intelligence acts are implemented to regulate artificial intelligence, these data recycling standards could help ensure that AI is patient-centric, and therefore its validity and value is safeguarded. Data recycling would support clinical and digital cooperation, which means patient-centric care. That would generate patient-centric care data, assist with health inequity monitoring, lead to global governance, and finally connected innovation for net zero healthcare, leading back to shared resources again, and the cycle would continue eternally. Thank you. Thank you, COM-V2X, for inviting me today, and thank you all for your patience. It has been a pleasure.